Welcome to the Show Me the Shift podcast with Coach Lenora, certified life coach, HR certified professional, international best-selling author, and creator of the Victorious Movement. A members-only community where she coaches her members from stuck to action and from scarcity to abundance in the areas of mindset, goal setting, and monetization online. The Show Me the Shift podcast was created to encourage future entrepreneurs that they can step boldly into their purpose by hearing the stories of others who have paved the way. Here is our host, Coach Lenora.
Hello, everybody. How are you today? It's so good to be here with you. And I have my guest, Dolly Alessandra, here with me as well. And I am going to just jump right in because I want to have so much of an amazing conversation with Dolly that we're just going to go ahead and jump in and get started. So let me tell you a little bit about Dolly. So Dolly's bio reads that she is a mystical architect of alignment and the co-founder of Elevitality, where she is a quantum growth leader. Now, Dolly Alessandra is a magnetic force behind visionaries who refuse to settle for the ordinary. So they're guided by prosperity, and she's a teacher in she was guided by the prosperity teacher and human potential wizard, Bob Proctor. And she spent years in his inner circle, soaking in the timeless principles that spark rapid transformation and breakthroughs for others. And as the co-founder of Elevitality, she blends spiritual depth with strategic precision. And that catalyzes exponential growth in people. And so Dolly's presence is spellbinding. She is one of those people who uses her wisdom and her warmth, and she just sees the true essence of who a person is and moves through rooms where others would dare to enter and leaves a lasting residence, as well as translates energy into tangible, accelerated outcomes. So her leadership, her feminine goddess power, as well as being fiercely compassionate, really inspires and empowers others to rise with grace, magnetism, and unstoppable momentum. And so with that, please help me to welcome Dolly Alessandra. Hello, Dolly. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing really great. I absolutely loved the introduction prior even to what you just read. That was really fun. That's why I was dancing to it too. That was really
fun. Right. Yeah, I know. I used AI to help come up with a wonderful introduction so that way it's like, oh, well, this is what I wanted to say, but I don't want to read my own introduction. So it's a really fun way to work with that. But I am so honored and grateful to have the opportunity to speak with you today. This has been, in my opinion, one of the most highly anticipated podcasts that I've had. I've had the most feedback from people and their excitement for my conversation with you. So I do want to let you know that. So I'm very excited.
Thank you. Me too. Me too. I'm really excited about this as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I know that I shared your bio, and there may be some people who either listen to this later or could be watching it on Facebook now and LinkedIn or even YouTube. But can you share a little bit about kind of what does that mean when you say, for example, that you are a mystical architect of alignment? I think a lot of people are like, oh, that sounds exciting and intriguing, but what does that actually mean from you? So I'd love to just hear a little bit about that from you.
Thank you. Actually, that's a really, really wonderful question. You actually nailed it there with what you said about how it made you feel when you said it. Mm-hmm. And so when I think about mystic, or fantasy, like dreams, one of the things I didn't realize, a gift that we all have is our ability to use one of our higher mental faculties, which is our imagination. And so the mystic part of it really too, for me, it seems so mystical when we think of these things that aren't really seen by the general public, but it's a place that we can travel to in our imagination. And so it's how it makes you actually feel. And for me, it's very mystical, these worlds that we bring from the quantum field onto this planet, bringing heaven on earth. There's a mysticism about it. It's such a mystery. It makes life itself so much fun. And so, as Lenora, you and I have gone through a journey together where I've been able to see up close and personal in your growth and evolution. And that has been such a gift for me. And this is part of that mysticism, a manifestation of the vision that I had prior to, actually being able to experience it in the human form. The mysticism, and so that is really that word that I use, the language in which we speak, is actually a feeling that I'm looking to transfer and invoke inside of you so that you can travel to a different frequency, get out of your head. Intellectually, you're not going to be able to hear anything I say, right? It's going to be when you drop into your heart and allow yourself to be mystical and to be okay with that in that unknown.
I love that. I love that. That's so exciting to just kind of even put yourself in that position, in that situation. And I know you always say that you like to be like behind the scenes, right? Behind the stage of what is going on in the people that you work with and support. And so that in itself, I think is very selfless, as you are giving of yourself. I think a lot of people are like, no, I want to kind of be beside the person, maybe have a little bit of a claim with the person. And so, can you share a little bit about why you like that space of, yes, I'm supporting and we're working together. However, I don't need that. I'm totally okay with being behind the scenes in the situation instead of in the forefront.
Sure, that's a great question. There's a lot around that. I always felt like there were always almost like secrets that the mystics knew, what those that had an advantage in the game. And I would always say, I'm going to discover what they know. Yeah, being as curious as I am. So for me, being behind the scenes was to be able to be up close and personal, being able to see things that very few people get to see, having a part of their story, that very, very few get to experience. We mentioned Bob Proctor. He was the first teacher, first wizard, and we mentioned him as a Merlin, uh, and this was him in my imagination. This is how I saw him 8 years ago, prior to knowing who he really was. And when I say behind the scenes, it also too allows me to be a part of what I want to say is like an emotional, impactful moment. This is actually coming out very differently than it has come out before. And as I process and sharing this was a really fantastic question, Lenora, because not just being behind the scenes, but also in the front row of someone's movie, watching them make decisions. Bob Proctor just recently was in a movie called, or not, he wasn't in the movie, but there was a biography made of him. And there were things too that very few people knew about what he had to go through too. Right? And one of the things that I've gotten to see and experience has been leaders. They also go through it too. All the things that we do when we're looking to step into a new dimension, a new, this part of us that's meant to grow and evolve and experience. And that takes courage to do. So being behind the scenes, it allowed me what I felt was this intimate, this curiosity of mine. Somebody would, when Bob Proctor would ask, what is it that you want? Some of the thoughts, some of the things I would ask is, if I could go back in time, wouldn't it be so cool if I could hang out with Albert Einstein? Wouldn't it be so cool if I could ask him personal questions only I would know the answers to? Not really understanding also, when you are that close, when you do have this level of awareness, there is an energy transference that happens as well. That's quite powerful. I didn't know it at the time. It was my childlike curiosity. So even the first thing I ever invested in when I knew nothing about personal development, the first thing I invested in was to be up close and personal, behind the scenes, being the home of Bob Proctor, not understanding yet what all that meant.
Mm.
So I'd hear those that had the results in which I was seeking, they would say certain things, and I was ready to receive that. So being behind the scenes now has a whole nother meaning. It's actually incredibly quite powerful to be in the presence of those that have the results in which you seek. And I also want to tap in on something that you said, and thank you so much for saying the selflessness of watching others also evolve. I would love to say it would only be that, but also too, when I watch others impress upon my subconscious mind do things that close and personal, there's a powerful impact, emotional impact that it has on me. So I actually do get to grow side by side eventually, if you will. Um, because of this, and also the seed in which I plant is in that intention that I set forth, because of the understanding that I have that you are me and I am you. Right? So it is when I get to watch you expand and grow into who you're meant to be, you impress upon my subconscious mind when I forget. I remember what you did and what it took and what you went through that very few people know, right? And that emotional impact of knowing it's not something, you're not somebody I just read about or somebody else that spoke about you. And it's somebody that I actually know. I watched you go through what it took to be the leader that you are today. And so that is really what that means. It's like hanging out with all the superheroes, right? Like, and really being really good friends with them before they become famous.
Oh, I love that. No, it's very exciting. Oh, say that again. I think I spoke over you.
Oh no, it was more for fun, but they don't forget who you are once they become famous. Yeah, that's it.
Right, right. That's so true. So true. Got it. And so let's go back because of course this is called Show Me the Shift. And so let's go back and talk about your shift. So what was that shift for you from you maybe, working a job, doing a 9 to 5, doing whatever it was that you were doing and actually because I know a little of your story, maybe I'll switch this question a bit and change it from the shift to entrepreneur to more the shift to getting into Bob Proctor's home without even knowing what you were doing in that moment of kind of being in his presence, right? And so for people who aren't aware, Bob Proctor is one of the gentlemen who, gosh, I guess he's kind of the founder of so many things when it comes to understanding yourself, your power, how you think. He read what Think and Grow Rich. I can't even remember how many times, with Napoleon Hill's works and all of that. But he basically, I was introduced to him through The Secret. So watching the movie The Secret, he was basically the gentleman who was the host. If you think of it, they always kind of went back to him and him kind of walking you through that story. And so Dolly is someone who got the opportunity to be extremely in close circles with him and got to know him very well. And so, but it didn't start off that way. So based on that, what was that first initial, I guess I was going to say drive, but I feel like it's more so a pull, like what pulled you towards that situation and had you in the same circle with him?
Oh gosh. I also want to say that anytime I was in the circle when he was here with us in the physical, there were times I couldn't speak, you know.
Mm,
And there's a lot of growth since then too, because he has transitioned. And
mm-hmm.
I did get to see a lot of things, observe a lot of things up close and personally, not understanding what I did before compared to what the level of awareness I have today. There are also too, I wish that there were things that I could have said to him that I was too afraid to say. And so, but these are not things that I regret. Instead, they are lessons for me and I've grown from. And to answer your question about like what it was that first shift for me, he did things like what we do, bravely speaking his truth, because his first introduction to me was not the movie The Secret, which was a hit back in 2006. I wasn't ready then for this information. I was still going through all my tests for my test.
Mm,
It wasn't until 2017 that I was in a very, very low place. I had hit what some would say is rock bottom. And my whole life was falling apart, and it was falling apart in speed. And I didn't know anything, Lenora, that had to do with personal development. I knew nothing at all. I didn't know what spirit was. I didn't really go to church. I kind of share all of that in this way just to say, I watched things like Jerry Springer. Like this was just the environment in which that I grew up in. However, why I mention it to this way is for those of you that are speaking truth, what an impact it truly makes. Because the video that reached me was one of him back in the early 80s, before he became, as well known as he is today. And I had asked, God for being in that rock bottom position. I had asked for help. I didn't realize then that when you ask, your thoughts send out a signal and your feelings draw back certain events. Again, I trusted, I could feel the words of this man. And what I think is really important too to mention is it back then what I felt was very random. So if you can imagine, I had never studied personal development in my entire life. And then I asked God for help and it was either help or it's not a place I travel to very often, but I feel that it's very relatable to others. And so this video randomly showed up on YouTube, and this is back in 2017. And it wasn't even what he said, it was how it made me feel. It was as if he was piercing through all these blocks that were put up, and he was reaching the true essence of who I was. And he said things like, you know, you are not your body, you're a spirit having a human experience. There were just certain things that he was saying that maybe I'd heard before, but I wasn't ready to hear yet. And from there, I don't know if people can relate to this. I started watching all the videos that he had available on YouTube. And I want to mention too that at the time, I felt that I was very broken. I was broke. I didn't have any money. And all these things that this man was saying seemed like a fantasy, very mystical, didn't seem realistic. I had never seen anyone really do what he said that one could do, but I could feel the truth in what he was sharing because he had walked the walk. This, I believe, is really key in reaching those that you're also walking the walk too. And once again, Lenore, this is interesting because I've actually shared this story many different times, but it's flowing through very differently this time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually processing and feeling it as I share it with you today. Because when I look back from 8 years ago from today and what I've gotten to be able to do, experience the manifestations, the dreams that have come true, it's been a mission of mine to transfer that to others because it really is very dreamlike. It doesn't seem realistic that one could really move the way I did and experience the way I have. The shift for me was that I was open and I was ready. And everyone you don't have to wait until you hit rock bottom the way I did. And I think that's important. And that I feel like you and I have had conversations about that too.
Mm-hmm.
Your bravery and your courage and showing up the way you have. Things moved so quickly for me. I was incredibly coachable. After I watched all the YouTube videos that he had, I did exactly the things that he told me to do. And when I say he, at the time, I didn't speak to him directly. However, you hear certain things when you're ready in a certain way. Yeah, and you can feel it in your intuition on what it is you're meant to do. And that's exactly what I did. And I had certain habits that started to shift within weeks that seemed absolutely unrealistic. One is smoking cigarettes. I'd been smoking since I was 13.
I don't
Yeah.
think I knew that about you.
Yeah. Sharing. So yeah, I haven't shared it. And yeah. And of course, other habits that I had too, but I identified as this person. I didn't think that I would ever be able to change.
Mm-hmm.
So deeply ingrained and so deeply rooted. However, I started to do the things he said to do because he would say, you're not a machine, but you have a machine. The true essence of who you are is spirit. Spirit flows to and through you. And everything that you can imagine, you can have. And I could feel the truth in that in my heart. I did the most radical things because I was incredibly coachable. He would say to write certain things every day, and I did. He would say to do certain exercises that seemed incredibly, at the time, it was against everything it was almost like I had been conditioned, without anyone ever saying it specifically, that this was like devil worshiping. And one of the exercises, an example of that was doing mirror work. You've heard of that before?
I've heard of it. I haven't done it. Right.
Yeah. And so certain things, done in a certain way, helping to reprogram. And once again, I didn't even understand what that meant. Reprogram what? What do you mean I have certain habits and habits can be replaced? So this quick shift that happened, this transference of energy happened in, once again, a video where Bob Proctor walked the walk and he was going through it was very relatable, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he was in alignment. He was going through the same things that I was going through, and was able to transfer that, where I could feel the truth in me, because the answers are within ourselves. It's not outside of us, right? So he was reminding me of who I was. So I started to do incredibly brave things. As you know, my personal story, the first thing, I just want to rewind and say, I was broke. I think that's really important for people to understand. My current circumstances were I didn't have a job. I wasn't making any money.
Mm-hmm.
Shifting certain habits, I started to become lighter and almost more joyful than I had ever been. So I knew that there was a shift that was already happening based on just some simple things I did. And then I made a decision. I want to meet this guy. I was like, I have to meet him. I don't know why, but I must meet him. And I went to his website and looked up all the different things he had. And once again, please, everyone, keep in mind, I had no money to invest in anything ever. I didn't have any money even to go to the movies. I,
That's
um,
crazy.
it is crazy, because then you go and look and see that there was this program. Again, this is all illogical. This is not intellectual. This all had to happen in the complete unknown. I had to be willing to do the things I had never done before, borrow the belief of those that had the results in which I was seeking. So I had to borrow their belief. And they would say too, you've got to walk the walk too. There is no bypassing. So I had to feel the fear. However, they were giving me certain tools. You know, with your listeners listening in, through storytelling, they're going to hear exactly what they're meant to hear, exactly when they're meant to hear it. We are channels of God's will. And I didn't know that at the time. So I speak to you in an awareness that I didn't have before. So he had a program called The Matrix. That's a really long, this is a long answer. But he had
That's
a,
perfect.
thank you. He had a program called The Matrix, which was very mystical, caused a feeling inside of me because of the name that he decided to call it. It was very relatable because I'd watched the movie The Matrix, not understanding it then. But I was drawn to it. Very, very drawn to that. There was no prices listed. And however, that was the only program that he had where you could actually meet him, at least at what was listed. There were other programs later I discovered that you could do one-on-ones with him. But had I saw that, I wasn't ready yet, because that would have scared me probably way too much.
Right.
But the Matrix had an investment, which I was later told what that was, which was $15,500. Now I want to go back to even to the question that you asked me originally. When was that shift? I want to really transfer to our listeners, your listeners. The shift was already happening once I had, right? Like once I had asked and became open to it. The journey had
Mhm.
begun. When I started to take action rather than to want it, right? Wanting it is outside. When the messages, the channeling started, write this out every day, do the mirror work. I started taking action on those things. So the shift was already beginning. Yeah. And they were incredibly powerful because I was ready to receive it. And I think that's key too, right? When we borrow the belief of others, our logic will try to stop us from doing what, right? Like, because it doesn't make any sense. It's way back. In 2017, it was really woo woo compared to what it was today. I can't even imagine how woo woo it was for Bob back in the 80s. But there was a program called The Matrix. There was an investment of, I'll just say it, freely, $15,500. My van was worth less than $1,000. And once again, I never invested, not never is a big word, but I didn't know what personal development was. And I didn't buy nice things for myself. So this was incredibly illogical. I didn't know then what I am aware of today about what was happening in my avatar, if that makes sense. Yeah. So the reprogramming of, once again, and everyone will understand it from their level of awareness, which was the programming of my machine, if you will. Does that make sense? So there was an emotional impact that happened when I made the decision that I was going to find a way to be able to invest $15,500 to a program called The Matrix so that I could meet a man named Bob Proctor. And the program was only 6 days. Lenora, the airfare was not included. The hotel was not included. And if anyone can relate, I was afraid to do anything by myself back then. I was a very, very different person then than I am today. And I realize now that the world in which we see is based on the experiences that we have, if this makes sense. Yeah.
It
So
does.
the more you experience the things in which you fear, more will be revealed, because the cave in which you fear to enter holds a treasure in which you seek. And that is awareness. It's remembering who we are. And he had done the work for over 60 years. Yeah. So who better than to have this transference of energy by investing, which I didn't know before. I didn't know that that's what I was doing. So there was
Mhm.
an emotional impact of absolute fear that was happening, right? So people can shift quickly in an emotional impact that normally feels that it could be a bad thing. Because my programming said, he's using you. This is a scam. How could anything be $15,500 for 6 days just to see a man one day, by the way, even though it was a 6-day training? I mean, we could see him during the training, but the day at his home was just one day.
One day.
That's right.
Wow. And you already had these reservations of what he was already saying may not even be true to happen, because you were like, can this even really happen? But something still drew you to spend the 15,500 to go. So very interesting.
It well, this is the intuition, right? That's God speaking
Yes.
back through you. And that voice was loud. Now, I had hit rock bottom with my back up against the wall. And I really did burn all the ships behind me, because some might be asking, well, where'd you get the money? Right?
Right.
Where'd you get that? Uh, if I really want to say this in a way, I was terrified, because Bob would say, borrow it from your grandma if you have to, because if you knew what you were going to get. Yeah. And I would think, is this guy scamming me? Like, why would he even say that? That is like, I mean, that is crazy that one could say that you could ask anyone. Now, this is not what I did. I actually took it out of my 401k. What makes the story fun, however, though, it wasn't fun at the time, was that I was married. So legally, yeah, that was also me and my husband.
His money.
Right. Even though I might have started that, right? Like legally, uh, it's both of ours. And I didn't tell him what I did.
Hmm.
And because I knew if I had, yeah, like, especially because of this new world, this new dimension I was stepping into. What I didn't know then, even, I mean, it was repeated back to me over and over again that these things were going to happen, that those
Mhm.
around you would not understand, they wouldn't have the level of awareness, right, that I did, or that are those that had the results. And these are teachers, leaders that they had. Um, I mention this way, once again, I feel as I'm saying this to everyone here, is that you're going to go through that too. It is going to be incredibly scary, and it's an absolute death, because I was so scared when I did it. Now I've been able to I put it all back. I think it's important for everyone. Like, there's the ending, yeah, of course. However,
Right.
at the time, I think too it's important that I had an entry level mindset. I worked at, I would be the front desk guy, the best personality, that, right? Like, I always, that was a part of, and I like, I was always positive about things, but I never saw myself as a leader. So I never saw myself beyond that. So to think that I could put the money back, especially with the investment that I made, was absolutely unrealistic. It did not make any logical sense at all. Um, However, that intuition that I speak of, and this is to the price you pay. Now, I don't mean the investment itself. The money itself paid itself back in so many folds. And I don't, of course, I regret nothing. However, at the time, it feels like broken bones. It feels like a true death. The fear that comes with it is real. Every day, when you have invested in yourself, in what you believe to be true, for those that are it's not even the way they're living, it's a feeling, if that makes sense. Right? Like we want certain things, like even me, I just was seeking freedom. I just wanted to be free of this negativity that, and I could feel that others were living at a different level of frequency, and that's where I wanted to be. So we don't want things when we set certain goals, big ones, as Bob teaches us to do, which is fantasy like. It wasn't the goal itself, it was the feeling that was attached to that. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. And once we reach the goal, whatever that might be, for me, I couldn't even, at the beginning, Lenora, I couldn't even write down that I wanted to earn $3,000 a month. That was unfathomable. And he would say, write down that you're going to make your yearly income your monthly income.
Mm-hmm. And that sounds insane, because you're like, how would that even happen?
How would that, yeah. When I just shared with everyone what it took for me to even go to meet him, right? Like, and when I went to meet him, you would think, okay, now you met him, you just invested all this money, you must have had all the results right away, right? No.
That's when the paradigms start happening.
Yeah. The upgrade definitely has happened, because I have now broken through the initiation of the fear,
Right.
right? And now
Right.
I've surrounded myself with others that are operating on frequencies that feel unfamiliar. And there's a terror in that. And feeling is the secret, right? The vibration which we're in. And they would say, who you surround yourself with is who you become. And these were echoes of whispers of the universe. And so by being in that energy for the 6 days that I was in it, my body has now memorized. Even the subconscious mind is picking all that up. But conscious, right? Like there's a part of me intellectually that's trying to figure all that out. Okay, well, you're right. I came back and now I've invested all this money. And if anyone's ever taken money out of a 401k, you're penalized twice. So not just the money you take out, right? So now I have to put all that back. I have no idea how I'm going to do that. And so and why do I say all that? It is that for every time we face an illusion of fear, because as Bob says so beautifully, faith and fear both demand that you believe in something you cannot see. You can't see either one, so choose faith. And every time I did that, and I borrowed the belief of others, and I would do what seemed so weird, such as listening to podcasts like this, right? Listening to stories. I didn't realize how powerful stories truly were, because it's parallel when you're really tuned in and listening. There are messages there for you to receive, but you will receive them only when you're ready. Otherwise, it's static, right? You'll reject it. And I didn't even know that I would have never known what it was that I had wanted had I not made that first move into the matrix. Because as I was there, Bob said, for those of you who would like to do what I do, I can show you how to do it. And I thought, oh, great. He's going to tell us how to do what he does. And then he goes, okay, and the investment is, and I thought, oh my God.
On top of being there.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, are you, and all the, the worry and the doubt, all of the programming came flooding through, and thinking, oh my God, he's using, all of it. Like I'm being manipulated. I'm such an idiot. I've been all of it. However, because of who I was plugged into, this goes a lot to so many of the inner circle members that I got to know. And then being a part of the inner circle, which was such a goal. It was such something that was unreachable for me back then. It was wanting to be behind the scenes of those that had the results in which I was seeking. Was that once I went to the matrix, I had been upgraded. So the shift now is really big. And now he's stating that he's going to teach us how to do what he's doing. And what do you think I did? Because of who I surrounded myself with, those that walk the walk, those that also were in debt, millions of dollars, losing homes, condos, and it looked as if it happened overnight. Now they're right, like now they're millionaires, or now they're living in the dreams in which they're living in. Because I surrounded myself with them, I borrowed their belief, Lenora, and that belief was an energy. And that was what was that energy was being activated within me. They were a mirror for me. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so, yes, I still had to do the work. I mean, it wasn't just woo woo in my imagination. And then I'm sure there was still some poof that happened. Sure. With clients that kind of came out of nowhere, but I still had to take action. But it became automatic. It was effortless because of these tools, certain things that were given to me that I was ready to receive, and not just receive, but also willing to do. I was willing to do whatever it took. I was willing to die for that. And so by doing that, for sure, I bought into this idea that Bob would always say, the universe loves speed, because I was running out of time. I
Yes.
put that money back. Yeah, like with close to within a certain 11 months, and I was like, I'll do whatever you say. And I was incredibly coachable. So yeah, it was a long answer. Thank you for allowing me to share it in that way. It comes out very.
No. I mean, if anybody was seeing me like look away, look down, whatever, it was because I was taking notes. As you were speaking, I was like, okay, let me type this up. Oh, let me get this information, because you shared so many amazing things. Number one, because I did take notes, being coachable. I mean, that is so huge when you think about how many people want to get to their next level, but every time someone tries to coach them and help them towards it, they're, oh no, that's not possible. No, I can't do that. No, that's never going to happen. No, that's not how I'm built. That's not how my family's been. It's all these negative, I guess paradigms, thoughts, the limiting beliefs come up and make people feel as though that's not a possibility. And you had some limiting beliefs maybe, but you also were coachable enough to say, but let me get past that. Let me get over to the other side. And then, like, I put down the other note of you being open, like just truly being open to the possibility. Like, okay, I don't know if I quite believe, and I think that's a biblical scripture as a preacher's kid, but it's like, I don't believe. No, I believe, but help me with my unbelief. Like, so it's like, I believe, but can you help me to really, I have some unbelief in there too. So can you help me believe the unbelief part that I'm dealing with right now? And so, but stepping into that, you were able to really get to everything that you wanted, because then you mentioned the cave. So I got the note about the cave, and like, I forgot, how did you say that? I don't know if I'd ever heard that phrase put that way. I've heard because I always say everything you want is on the other side of fear, right? The fear that you have, the wall that you have, is what's stopping you from getting to that next side and that next level of your best self. But you said something about the cave, and I can't remember exactly how you worded that.
Sure, I would love to take credit for it, but it belongs to Joseph Campbell.
Okay.
And yeah, and it was, the cave in which you fear to enter holds this treasure in which you seek.
That's it. Yes, I love that. And so it's so true, because it, we all have the free will, right, to do what it is that we are called to do, what's going to bring us the biggest joy in our own heaven on earth. But at the same time, we have to be willing to do the work. We have to be willing to go into, as you said, that cave that you're afraid of. You could be afraid of the dark. You could be afraid of bats. You could be afraid of whatever, but you're going to have to get past that fear in order for you to be able to get to the rewards on the other side of that cave. And so that, yes, very, very powerful. That is amazing. And these are things that, as you were saying it, I was like, I don't want people to miss this. I'm going to take these notes really quick. And then the other thing that I wrote down is the investment part that you mentioned, because when you think about it, everything that you want to do for yourself, there's so many people who want the easy path, right? They want it to, well, can it be free, or maybe a freemium? Like, it's not like no premium, like just a freemium. No, can I get something for a little bit of nothing? And the thing is that people like Bob Proctor know that you do not value what you do not pay for. So therefore, if it is free, you're not going to show up. You're not going to feel as the pain of that. You knew you had to get that money back into your 401k. So you were like, whatever it takes and whatever you tell me to do, I'm invested in more ways than one. And then you have where other people are going to be like, if it's free, if it's, oh, it's for, a nominal amount, then yeah, I'm not going to give it the same energy. But look at the rewards on the other side of that, as you went from what you said is your rock bottom, and we see you sitting in your wonderland right now. Like, that is very different, right? And you were able to get there because of the work that you did, and the investments that you have made. Because I'm sure Bob's program isn't the only one. So
This is
so
great.
anyway, those are all the jewels that I was capturing. I'm not sure if others were feeling the same thing. And actually, we have so many comments. Oh my gosh, I have not even looked at all the comments. So we have everything from Marlene saying, I am you and you are me. Shannon, yes, the same thing. You and I, you are me and I am you. Love this. My mom is saying she loves this interview. Um, let's see. We have, yeah, exactly. We have the secret is where like that's how I found out about Bob. She said in 2014 was when Marlene with her journey of self-discovery started. Shannon feel the same way about this in her soul. And I probably am missing exactly the moments in which all of these comments were coming through. But once we are done, go to Facebook, look at your page. You'll see all the amazing comments that everybody has been making regarding this interview. So yeah, oh, someone else, Mike said, yep, no pain, no gain. Like you got to do that. And then Toby, one of my BFFs, said, this is a great conversation. Thank you both. So I told you it was a very anticipated conversation that I was having with you. And so it brings me joy to see that it's bringing so much enlightenment and assistance and help to others. So I'm so excited. All right. And God, this is like going on the fastest hour ever. Like I was not thinking that like, well, no, we're not done yet, but it's like already 45 minutes in. And I don't know when that happened because it just feels like we've been talking for 10 minutes. So I don't know what's going on. But let's move on to another question. So we did talk about that shift and you moving in. With your intuition. I won't say in, but with your intuition, which intuitive is my word in Circle of the One, which for anyone who is not aware, Dolly and her partner in Elevitality, Troy, I've been a part of their circle for over a year or so ago. I started in the circle with the two of them, but was able to be a part of the book that they created. And intuitive is my word within that book. So as you were talking about that, I was like, she's using my word. But yeah, but so many people have the intuition to do things and to take action. I even call it the Holy Spirit within people. You know, it's just like, should I move in this way, in this direction? And so many people are too fearful to take that action. So I know when you spoke to intuitive, that's where it was like, yeah, it was, but no, there was something in me that made me feel like this was the time and this was the thing I needed to do. So, all right, now I've gone on about all the amazing things that you have shared. Let me ask you another question. So, um, so we talked about that move, but then I want to get into like entrepreneurship because again, part of Show Me the Shift has been from my previous interviews, even people who were employees to entrepreneurs and moved in that direction. And so from you being in the situation that you were previously in and working, getting this exposure and experience, like what was that shift for you and how soon or quickly or when did you decide to even make that shift? I don't think I've heard that story from you.
Was when I wanted at the
To
beginning.
move into being, yeah, your own boss, an entrepreneur, and taking that leap of faith of, oh no, I'm not going to continue working for somebody else, but I'm ready to make that shift for myself and be my own boss and start down this path.
Wow. I don't think that question has been asked that way before. So this is fascinating. Uh, the visions that I get from memories of the past. I also want to mention too, it's been so much fun, my journey since beginning this. And this was something else I didn't realize. I have such more of an awareness today than I had before of how much fun it's really been. Even going to the Matrix, investing what I did, the people I got to meet, priceless. I
Mhm.
mean, it really truly was the adventures I got to have, the feelings. It was player one. It was me being the main character. Yes, I'm behind the scenes, but also too, and remembering because of the mentors that I had, they would remind me, you're the main character. Yeah. So yes, I was behind the scenes of other main characters of their movies, but I got to see the most powerful move. Yeah, it wasn't just Bob Proctor, as you said. He was the initial teacher, the initial wizard. And you're going to be that for someone, Lenora, and your listeners are going to be that for someone too. The main teacher that pierced it through, that pierced this whole other world for someone else to be able to experience. And they will forever, forever remember you. They will take you with them everywhere they go. And that makes me emotional because
I know you're getting ready to make me emotional.
because I already know you change lives. Yeah. Like you've already done that and you do. And the seed in which you plant is true. The principles that we study, it's true. It's real. You do reap the fruits of that. And we don't do it just for ourselves selfishly, because we become aware that we are one. We are, and that's what I was saying before, like I am you and you are me. I didn't know that before. And to be able to be so up close and personal. When I went to the Matrix, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Remember, I was an entry level. I was the girl that would be the assistant. Hello, and I worked at Progressive. I quoted your car insurance. There was nothing. My dad would say, you should be a supervisor. My dad's a huge believer now, more than ever before. Yeah, like when I started this, he was like, oh my God. But he would say, you should go for supervisor. And I shut it down every time. No, what do you mean? No, I could never do that. Like, it didn't compute. It didn't compute. It was my programming, because my spirit inside though was screaming, oh, but you're so much more. You can do so much more. Even as a kid, I knew there was more than just this. And that's where the rock bottom hit, actually. I had literally gone through too much hell. I was like, okay, I'm done. Somebody, God, I got it. Like, I'm ready to come out. I'm ready to remember. So when you ask, this is important too for everyone listening, you must ask for what you want. Ask and then be ready to receive. And those, and it's going to come in the most, as you also know, Lenora, right? Like how it comes. You must be ready. And that readiness will be the work in which you do on you. And that's what Bob was doing. He was preparing me. He gave me all these tools. Write this out every day. Do this every day. Do this, do that. And he was showing me in speed how to reprogram the machine so that spirit could fuller express and expand, which was the true essence of who I am. And when I went to the Matrix, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just spent, with penalties, come on, we're talking 25 grand, actually. And that was more than I was making in a year. So like what I had done, I was like, I'm going to get murdered. If this doesn't work, I am screwed.
Right.
I'm going to check out. I'm done. Like, it was either this or that. That was and that's when Bob had said, you can do what I am doing. And that's when the decision, that was the first thing that I was like, that's exactly what I want. But Lenora, this is key. I would not have known what was even, like, it wasn't in my awareness. Had I not entered the cave, right, that I feared, received the treasure, but then I had to be ready to do it again. Because remember, there's another investment that I have to make.
Right.
Okay, so all of my paradigms and programs are happening again, and not just the investment in becoming a consultant with Bob. There's an LLC. Back then it was credit card machines. These are things that I was so ignorant about. I had never spoken in public. And if you guys remember what I just said, I was entry-level position mindset. I couldn't talk in a group. I could only talk to one person. You put another person in there and I was silent. So for Bob to say you can do what I was doing didn't make any sense at the time. However, because of those I surrounded myself with that had very relatable stories like me that were impressing upon my subconscious mind, that if you believed and if you couldn't believe it yourself, you borrowed others, I started to move without, right? Again, very coachable. Because people think, oh, you got to hustle. You got to go out there and you got to do this. You got to work hard. Yes, you still have to take the action, but in alignment. Self-regulation first. Otherwise, you're going to miss all the downloads. Because you're in a sense of, right, the universe responds to the vibration in which you're in. Not to what you say you want. It's who you're being. That's why it's an inside job first. Get into alignment. Yeah, purge what you need to purge. It will feel like broken bones. It will feel incredibly scary, but that is part of the initiation. That is part of the of your transformation. That's why it's very and that's what I did. And so that's I didn't want to say there was a few that understood it, because I don't believe that anymore. I believe that today. But that was when I had made that was that decision of, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I don't even know what that means.
I don't know if I know how to spell it, but I'm ready.
I didn't even know what an LLC was, or an S
Right.
corp. All these things you later learn, and all these
Yeah.
taxes you're gonna have to pay when you start earning a lot too.
Mhm.
And there's a whole manifestation story around that too, by the
Ooh,
way.
I'm gonna have to hear that one day. I love it. I love it. Well, yeah, and you're right. It's like I was listening to somebody else speak and they said it's be, do, and have. You have to be, you have to become first, and then you have to do the work, and then you can have the just rewards. But so many people are focusing on the have, and they're like, but who do you need to become to get the have? And what work do you need to do to get the have? And so as you were just speaking that, it was reminding me of that, of the ask and you shall receive. But at the same time, and Marlene even said that this is the second time she heard this today. She heard it at church also. John 16:24. She said she thinks, and I'm trying to remember. I feel like maybe I didn't remember, but anyway, it's ask and you shall receive. Yep. And then Toby said coachable, teachable, receptive, and trainable. So yes, all of those things are really important. And Toby also did ask, where can we find that book that you mentioned? And so it is on Amazon. So you can find it on Amazon, the book that I had mentioned earlier with working with Dolly and Troy. And seed, plant, blossom, fruit. Yes, we hear that all the time, right? Seed, plant, blossom, fruit. And so you got to plant that seed. It's got to blossom. Then you get your fruit on the other side of that. And that goes right along with be, do, have, really, because you have to, the seed has to become the plant to then have it to blossom until you can have the fruit. So yeah, I love it. Okay, excellent, excellent. A lot of great comments in here today. Thank you everybody for your Facebook and YouTube messages that have been coming through. So we appreciate it. I feel like the time is running short, but I have so many questions. So, but I appreciate you walking through that and sharing, because I think a lot of times too, people feel as though when it's time for them to become an entrepreneur, they'll know, like it'll be this lightning bolt of, I know everything that I need to know and everything's going to go smoothly. And, yes, I'm going to have some ups and downs because that happens in business, but here's that stamp that, okay, now's your time. And I don't feel like that happens for most people. It's either by circumstance or situation or decision. So I'm glad that you shared your story of that, because I think that really is powerful for people to hear.
Yeah. Oh, well, and also too, it was how I was responding to every diversity, in discovering the answers to what you say, because I was very ignorant. Again, I didn't surround myself with the entrepreneurs that were dreaming big back then, and so there was no one really I could ask except those that I was going to training with. And interestingly, too, I said Tony Robbins because that's who we just went and saw. That's a whole
Mm,
other story too, because I was repelled by him, actually. He was the first introduction to personal development that I ever saw. Actually, because Bob Proctor was the one that pierced me. But I watched a movie called Shallow Hal, and they had Tony Robbins on there. I
I
don't know
do
if you
remember him being in there.
yeah, and I was like, what a bunch of losers. Like all these people that follow this weird looking man that just hoorah. Like there was so much judgment and and I didn't know what that was then. And but we just went and saw him, and I just want to say this, if I may,
Mhm.
what was revealed and the timing of it was divine. Because I realize now why I wasn't ready for the download that I got to receive last week, because what a wonderful opportunity we got. Troy and I were invited by John and Jody, both of them being trainers for Tony Robbins. We were invited as guests, and we got to see the power that one person can have. Yeah? And
Yeah.
in a way where he led in love and light, and I got to see his thought externalizing itself, like right, like the dream in which he had. Who could you ever imagine that you could influence? I don't a total of 17,000 people. Okay, influencing them in a way, but also to living out your dream without feeling uh, shame for wanting that. You see, I
Mhm.
felt shame when Bob would say, "What do you want? What do you want?" I wasn't going to write down $100,000. I was just looking to survive. Yeah, so I was like, just 3,000 would be good. just 3. I mean, I can barely make the 2, so 3 would be really great. And I mean, that was as far as I could see, and then once I had, and he would always say that once you hit the goal in which like you wrote out, you're going to realize that you could have said it here. And when I went to see
Mhm.
Tony Robbins' event recently, I got to see him, live out his dream, a rock star, yeah. And not in a way of conceit. It was, it was a true embodiment of who we all are, and his way of transferring that to remind others. And each of us reach people a different way. You see, back then, Tony Robbins, some would have said, was bigger than Bob Proctor because he's got $12 billion. Bob didn't have that when he transitioned. So some may judge and compare that. That's a stupid game to play.
Mhm.
For especially some of us that are stepping into a new identity of who we want, we're being called to be. We compare ourselves with others. Don't do that.
We
Because Bob
never
Proctor
should.
reached me in a video from 1980. It wasn't even The Secret that reached me. It was a video that was buried in the vault that just happened to reach me at the time that it did. So that to me was really profound to see, because I
Mhm.
realized that Bob Proctor's dreams were different than Tony Robbins. Right? Your thought externalizes itself. What you think most of the time, you cannot hide. It will magnetize. Yeah, your results will always show what you're truly, what is your dominant thought. And had I seen Tony Robbins at first, I wasn't ready. I would have been too much. It had to be at the time that I saw him where I could say,
Right.
it doesn't have to be this or that or that. It can be this and that.
And
And all,
absolutely.
and all the things you've invested in, all the things you have, it is not a waste. It's an energy exchange. So if anyone's ever invested in programs before, what story are you telling? Yeah, it's a
Yep.
really important in that. And that was a level of an awareness that I didn't have before when I invested in the matrix. Okay, there was an energy exchange. There was a transference of remembrance. Does that make sense? So in the
100%.
book that we are in, this is a collective thing, and those that have the awareness will understand it for what it is. I invested in a program back then. I mean, it was $4,500. It was a lot of money. So after I did the matrix, I invested here, invested here. I
Mhm.
spent the $4,500 thinking that I was going to use it. I didn't use it. And you know what it was? It was to show me how to become a bestseller through Peggy McCall. It was one of Bob's really good friends. But I didn't use her program. I didn't go to her class. I didn't listen to the videos. But Lenora, we have how many international best-selling authors? 66.
Over 60, yeah, 66.
Yeah. Uh, It was an energy what? Exchange.
Exchange and transference, yep, 100%.
I didn't
Yeah,
use
it's
it. Yeah.
awesome.
It works.
Mhm. It works. It 100% works, and so that is it's so funny that your introduction was Bob Proctor. My introduction was Tony Robbins. Like, and you
Oh,
were like, "Oh, Tony, kinda, I don't know." And for me, it was like, "Wait." And I mean, especially knowing I was gonna go to school, be a psychology major, all of that, or maybe I was already in school when I discovered him because he came out in the '80s and I went to school in the '90s. But I remember buying the CDs and listening to them and like, "Ooh, it's about your mindset. It's about how you think about things. It's about not letting other people's like what other people think of you is none of your business. Like you have to focus on what you know about you and what you want to have for your life." And like you said, I think a lot of times how you're raised, maybe financial situations, things of that nature, you're just like, but is that possible? Is that something that can happen for somebody like me? Is that something that can I be someone who makes a six-figure income, a seven-figure income? Like, how would that even be possible? And then just knowing that if you're just self-aware, if you're willing to work on yourself, if you're willing to connect with the right types of people even and have the right types of mentors, and not even for, as they always say, not what they do, but what they believe about themselves and what it is that they can accomplish, then so many amazing things can happen. And so, yeah, Marlene's like, yes. And then I have another comment here from Toby. I think most of the time it's born out of necessity when life-changing events cause the shift, or your self-knowledge, awareness, and passion push you or push the shift like a volcanic eruption. Ooh, I like how that's explained. In both cases, you have no choice but to follow that path. And that's true because it's like once your mind opens to the possibilities, you can't push it all back in and make it feel as though, oh no, I can't think that way anymore. Like it's done now. So
Right.
you have to
Well,
go.
it's like the Matrix, the movie. Once you take the red pill, yeah, it's very difficult.
Difficult to go back. I know. Oh my gosh, Dolly, this hour has gone so fast. It has been so amazing. Maybe I'll have to do another one with you at some other point in the future because this is just it's I had so many questions too. And I don't want to take up much of your time. I know you're extremely busy and I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me out of your busy schedule. What is one final thing that you'd like to share with everybody from even whether it's about our conversation today or something different, but then also how can people connect with you, get with Elevitality, just different things that you would like to share. But let's start with that closing thought.
Wow. Okay. Well, first and foremost, too, I want to thank you for
Oh,
inviting me. And, in the year that I've been able to see you evolve into what you have. Oh my gosh, Laura, this is incredible. For those of you that haven't heard Lenora's story, please make sure you go back and listen because it takes guts to do what you've done, and um, what you are creating is. I'm just so grateful that I got to be a part of that. Like, in what I mean by that is being a witness to that. That
mhm.
is priceless. And the part, I mean, really, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank
Oh,
you.
thank you for all our conversations and just everything that you poured into me. And as you said, being able to have someone that I could borrow their belief in me. So I do appreciate that.
It's a good, well, and so, I mean, my advice it would be listen to Coach Lenora, because this woman walks the walk, really too. And, and that really is true when I say that, like, and everyone here that, Marlene, Shannon, Toby, those that you guys have been consistent in listening. That is not by accident, it's by divine design. If you're listening to this, whether live or on replay, there's something here for you to remember. You know, it didn't make any sense to me that I could have the things that I desired, and this really works. It's like it really is the good news. When I left the Matrix, before I left, it was the first time I'd encountered anything like that before, and a feeling inside that was so powerful, familiar, yet so unfamiliar too. And all I wanted to do was share it. I just wanted to tell everybody. And Bob said, do it in doses, be careful, right? Like it's, you hit them with the fire hose and they're not ready. But I just want this last piece for everyone that's listening. Let this be that validation, that reflection. As I mentioned about Tony Robbins' dream that came true, Bob Proctor's dream came true too before he transitioned. His dream was different. We all have different things that we want to experience. Don't compare yourself with others because I promise you it's not what it seems. It is based on your level of awareness. So if there's anything that I could leave to all of you, it would be to be a mystic, dream big, fantasize. That's what I fell in love with when my teacher Bob Proctor said that you could have, be, do whatever it is that you desired. He said, if you could think it, you could have it. So I said, you know what? Then I'm going to meet all of you. I'm going to meet all the elites. And guess what? Although we didn't get to that today, I've met a lot of elites and been in rooms I couldn't imagine I could ever be in. Even too with the creation of Elevitality, the depth in which that I wanted to go, the history, the ancient. I realized there was a lot that it was so much deeper. Circle of the one, too, Lenora, you being the empress of the queen of intuitive. Yeah, there's a level of understanding that we have. Not everyone is ready to receive. So that would be the main thing, is that believe, like believe that it's possible. Borrow our stories for now. That would be the main thing. Because, oh my God, it really is real.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. How amazing. And how can people connect with you? I am sure whether it's through listening on Spotify or Apple Music or watching a replay on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever, somebody is going to say, I need to connect with that Dolly lady. So how can they find you?
Thank you. It would be elevitality.com. And that's not an easy word to spell. So I would definitely say, well, make sure to leave it in the
Yes,
comments. I think it's also there too. And
it's
if
in
you're,
the description too.
yeah, and if you're drawn to it, you'll seek it. And that's where you'll be able to find me.
I love that because you're right. You're drawing the people who need what it is that you offer. So you're automatically attracting them. So you don't have to seek it because it's seeking you.
That's right. That's awesome. Yes.
I love
These
it.
are not play on words. These words that we read from our ancestors, they're telling us the truth. It's not, you don't just read it, you become it. Thank you, Lenore.
100%. Thank you, Dolly. Oh my gosh. Thank you, thank you, thank you, John. He's saying hello as well. So he's in the room. Emily. So yeah, love you guys too. Everybody's like, love you both. Hey, hi. Emily, this is so great. Lenora and Dolly, surround yourself with people who will elevate you. These are the people I surround myself with. Yes, that is so, so important to make sure that you are putting yourself in the right circles. Because you don't want to be around people who have that crab in the barrel mentality of pulling each other down as opposed to lifting you up. And so that is one of the things I will say for anyone who is contemplating even joining Elevitality. I will say that is a group that does that. They support and elevate and lift each other up, and it's a great family. It's the best way to describe it. It's a great family of people. And so I have been in the meetings and midst of Shannon and John and Emily and Marlene and Dolly and and so
Awesome.
it is, yeah, it is awesome. It is awesome. And so for anyone who is thinking about, oh, this sounds great and I need to be around people who have that type of energy and mentality, then by all means, I highly, highly recommend Elevitality and connecting with the beautiful goddess Dolly. I mean, come on.
Love you. Thank you so much. This was so
You're welcome. Wonderful, wonderful. So on that note, everybody, I'm going to do my shameless plug because I always do. But for anyone who is interested in joining my community, it's called the Victorious Movement. You can use the QR code here, but basically, as I am a life coach, I focus on helping people with their mindset, their purpose, and kind of walking in their purpose as I have decided to do myself, as Dolly referenced. And so just making sure that we are all putting our best foot forward towards all the wonderful things that we want to do and accomplish for ourselves. So on that note, that is the end of this week's I was going to call it Elevitality. Now I'm calling your show. But thank you, everybody, for joining Show Me the Shift. I do appreciate your time and energy, and we will come back in a few weeks. Take care, everybody. Bye.